Hello, what's going on? Episode 10, welcome back. It's the Wise Lemon Podcast with your host, Zade Eldomiaty. And I wanted to start off this week by stating a couple of my inspirations. Last episode, I talked about the fact that we stand on the shoulders of giants, and there's a lot of people that had to do specific things or that achieve certain things that allowed us to be here in the way that we know the world today. As you can see, rocking my alumni stuff. App State, baby. Shout out to App State University in Boone, North Carolina. Was where I went to college, majored in marketing, concentration in sales, played soccer there as well on the club team, and it was an incredible experience. It was actually funny. I went to Boston a few weeks back to see one of my cousins, Lath. Shout out to you, Lath, if you're watching this. And he lives in Boston, and he's about to be graduating. Just graduated, actually, from Northeastern. Congratulations, Lathy. And it was interesting because I was going there. It was his birthday coming up. He was about to be graduating. I'd never been to Boston, so a lot of reasons to go and see one of my favorite people in the entire world. And one of the things that I realized before the trip was it had been 4 years since I had graduated from college. And it's interesting because when you're younger, school really serves as like a demarcation of time. If you tell me, Zade, what did you do when you were 12? I really would have a very hard time placing that unless you were to say you were in 4th grade. In which case, I'd know what school I went to, and from there, I'd be able to kind of draw on relationships, experiences, those kinds of things. But it's interesting because this is like when you're born, you can't really do much. You're relying on everybody around you. You're incredibly vulnerable, and your parents kind of put you through this track of school, and you start in pre-K or wherever you start, and you go through till some, stop at high school, some stop at college, some stop beyond that. But the idea that you didn't have a choice, really, to become educated. More often than not, your family just puts you in these, public schools or whatever the case may be, and you're on this path, you're on this journey. And I talked about this in previous episodes, but the idea of you have to go through difficulty to get to ease, this is something my father and I talk about quite a bit. And the idea is like nothing in life is ever easy. And if you constantly seek the easy way out, you're almost just delaying the challenges that will inevitably come. But if you allow yourself to bite the bullet, swallow the frog, whatever euphemism you want to say, as far as like challenge yourself early and often, because those challenges allow you to become the person you were meant to be, and they allow you to accumulate the skills that makes a difference. And I like to use the education example because if you were conscious enough and you had the understanding at preschool to be like, hey, okay, you guys are going to put me in this preschool and then 1st and then 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, so on and so forth, I'm going to be spending close to 20 years of my life in this process of learning and educating myself and what that looks like. And I feel like a lot of people, if they were to have that choice in preschool, may not want to do that. But that's the thing. You weren't given an option. You weren't given a choice. You were simply put into this system, going through difficulty to inevitably become educated, allow you to get job opportunities to go to college or pursue whatever life you want to pursue. But you're going through that difficulty to get to ease. And a lot of the times, humans like to be comfortable. And people underestimate just how much we love distractions. And when you recognize that and you realize this, and I've recognized it in myself too, it's like I've had challenges, I've had difficult moments in my life, and they allowed me to kind of level up and overcome, evolve as a person, so to speak. And then I've also had times where I've kind of been resting on my laurels. I've been incredibly comfortable, and I haven't pushed myself as often as I may have wanted to or liked to. And 10 times out of 10, I would choose the challenge. Choose the difficulty over the ease, because ultimately that leads to you learning something. It leads to more sticky, tangible experiences, something that you remember, that you can reflect on. Maybe it was terrible at the time, but through time, you're able to see it for what it is. And what it was an incredible learning experience. And that's one of those things that I always like to think about at times, is just understanding, yes, something might be difficult, maybe uncomfortable, but you need to do it. Because if you don't, it's a habit like anything else in your life. You could either get used to taking the high road, doing the tough thing, challenging yourself, or you could get used to the opposite. Making excuses, canceling plans, cutting short on your word and going back on your word and saying things that you would do, and then all of a sudden you'd rather have the free time and mope about and watch TV or whatever, and you'd rather do that. And I'm not coming from a place of judgment on either side, because like I said, I have been in both shoes. I've been in both positions, and sometimes it is nice to chill. But at other times, recognizing the long-term repercussions of that and how humans are really, we're habitual creatures. And what you get used to, you get used to. And one begets the next, and to understand the value of challenge and difficulty and to brave those challenges, knowing that it might not be easy, but understanding that it is for the best and it's to allow you to learn and to develop and to become the person you're meant to. That's everything. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And I think that's very important. And on that note, just kind of briefly going back to school and to those who are in school right now, because I am no longer in school. I'm in the workforce and I'm working as a salesman here in the city of Chicago. But for those who are learning in school, whether it's formalized school, whether you're like public, private, it doesn't matter, or you're just somebody who wants to just continue to learn more, even if you're past college age or whatever the case may be, never stop learning. Never limit yourself. The only limitations are the ones you put on yourself. And we live in a time where information, which used to be behind, was gatekept, and there was, and a tremendous amount of cost that was needed to be paid to be able to have access to the books that had this information. We're in a time where there is so much information out there that if you truly want to learn whatever, you are able to. The question becomes, do you have the discipline and the consistency to really act on that? And if you are in schools, more formalized school, I just would encourage anybody who is in that, ask questions. Don't be afraid to raise your hand. I remember being in school, and a lot of the times, especially in college, you see a lot of this where people want to look cool or be perceived in a certain way, so they don't ask questions. They sit in the back of the class. They don't really talk much, and they're just waiting for the class to end. I was never that guy. I was never that student. I knew I was lucky enough to not have to go into debt for college. And I understand the sacrifices my parents made to allow me to get an education, and I refuse to sit back and be, I mentioned this in one of the first episodes, but I refuse to be nonchalant about it. They're paying something. I'm expecting to learn something. So I'm going to get what I came for. And you get out what you put in, and I'd sit in the front of the class, and I'd raise my hands, and I'd participate, and I'd engage, because first of all, it's respectful to the teacher, and secondly, I'm getting my money's worth. I am getting the bang for my buck. And I'd encourage you guys to do the same, because regardless of what other people may think, or, oh, this guy's asking a lot of questions, or this guy's a teacher's pet, or whatever, do you want to learn? That's the question. And if you do, there's a way to do that. That's to engage, And you see it a lot where some people don't want to do that, and everybody goes there for a different reason. Everybody goes to college for a different reason. Everybody gets something different from their education. But what I'd encourage you to do is to ask yourself, what do you want to get out of this? What do you want to learn? Are you genuinely curious about these subjects? And if you are, and if you do want to learn, no one's stopping you. Only person that's stopping you is yourself. So really remember that. Engage with the world, because the world's a lot more exciting, engaging, and entertaining when you do. There's a lot of little things that people look over every single day that if you took the time to learn more about it, you would be breathless. It would leave you absolutely speechless. It's an amazing thing. And it's doesn't only come from the mind, it comes from the body as well. Mind-body connection. You can't have one without the other. You got to make sure you're taking care of yourself. You're eating well, you're staying active, and you're reading. I mean, for me, those three things and doing them consistently leads to consistently high levels of mood and just feelings of self-esteem, respect, and all those kinds of things that come along with it. But you got to understand, you can't neglect one and have the other. They're both connected in a certain way, and understanding that will just allow you to reach the highest level and peak performance. And one of the last things I want to talk about, I know during these conversations and during this podcast, we talk a lot about different ideas and philosophical topics and things of the sort, but I got to talk about one of my favorite things in the entire world. I know we talked about it in a previous episode, living your passions and loving your life and doing things that make you happy. And one thing that's made me happy and also unhappy, depending on the season, is this right here. Arsenal Football Club. A little bit of background for those who aren't super into soccer. Arsenal has been the club that I've supported since I was a young man. I almost didn't even have a choice. Growing up, on the screen on a weekend, it was F1 and it was footy. And when it was footy, it was always Arsenal. Shout out to Arsene Wenger, is the person who my dad kind of allowed to fall in love with the club. Between him and Cesc Fabregas, from my understanding, those were the two that really kind of pushed him to support Arsenal. And I was born in 2000, so I was a little young to understand the Invincibles and everything that went along with it, but I'd sit there next to my dad on a weekend watching some soccer, and it was always Arsenal. So that was the team from a very young age. And I've been watching them for over close to 2 decades now, which is unbelievable to say. It makes me feel quite old to say that. And in addition to, more recently, we've been as successful as I've seen the club been. Before the last 3 to 4 years, we were struggling for quite a bit of time, and they would literally ruin my weekends. If I was going to say the sports team that I loved the most, hands down, forever and always, it would be Arsenal. And it's interesting when you put your happiness in somebody else's hands, but there's also something beautiful about it, because you like to have the agency to be happy or sad, but then there's also something about just caring deeply about something, someone. And I played soccer my whole life. What the game has taught me is unparalleled. I learned a lot in the classroom. I learned a lot more outside of it. Traveling had a big part to do with that. But being a soccer player, and from a young age, learning how to win with grace, learning how to lose with grace, learning what hard work means, seeing sacrifice on behalf of your teammates, to learn how to communicate with others through different communication styles. There's so much that it teaches you. And I've been so grateful in my life that I've had something that's brought me that much happiness and pure joy, that watching these guys play a game, just kicking a ball around, which seemingly, if you're not a fan of the game, you're kind of just like, this is boring. And, a lot of people, when they criticize soccer, they talk about, you could watch 90 minutes of a game and it could end 0-0. What's the fun in that? Nobody scores a tie. And in the American mind, a tie is almost sacrilegious. It shouldn't happen. Why is this even a possibility? Right. But there's something about it. And a few reasons why I love the game, besides the fact that I played it my whole life and it's something that I've been exposed to early and often, was tell me where else you can watch 45 minutes of uninterrupted anything on television today. No commercials, no breaks, no timeouts. 2 halves, 45 minutes plus added time. That's it. That is increasingly rare. In a day and age where attention spans are getting shorter, where content is getting shorter, to have a game that might end in a 0-0 tie after you spend 90 minutes watching. That's life. That's life. That's life. That's literally, it's a beautiful thing. And I've always loved it, and it makes me very happy. And with Arsenal this season, the past 3 years, for context, we finished in second place. I believe it was twice to City, once to Liverpool. And it is gut-wrenching for a team that hasn't won the Premier League title, which is the highly coveted trophy we're going after, for the over close to 20 years. And now we're in a position where you've been so close, and yet it's been taken away from you, and you've just been there, close but no cigar, for the past 3 seasons. It's devastating. It's brutal. This year, we're in first place right now. We currently have a 4-point lead over Manchester City after their tie against Everton yesterday. And it's going down to the wire. It's going to the last game. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because, besides the fact that it means a tremendous amount to me, it's your passions are so important. And I literally feel like I'd be a different person if I did not love Arsenal Football Club. Is it silly? Maybe. But the idea that something seemingly so innocuous could bring you so much joy, I think that's the beauty of humanity. That's the beauty of life. That's the beauty of play. Because that's what sport is. There's a lot of beautiful things that we did when we were children that you forget about. And people forget the meaning, the impact, and the importance of play. because sometimes it's nice to be silly. In life, there's a lot of highs, there's a lot of lows, there's things that are incredibly serious, and there's things that are meant to be taken lightly. Humor is one of the greatest gifts that humanity was given. You gotta laugh, you gotta enjoy, you gotta appreciate the little things, and even though it's not so little to me, maybe to others, and I love Arsenal Football Club. I'm including them in the podcast for the hopes that putting this good energy out there will only help them cross over the line. And we're also going to be playing in the Champions League against Atletico Madrid to go to the first Champions League final in quite some time. So I love it. Go Gunners. They make me incredibly happy, and I'd encourage you guys, whatever it is that makes you happy, don't let anybody take that away from you. Appreciate it. Hold on to it, because those are the things that give life a little bit more life, a little bit more spice, a little bit more fun. But in closing, just to kind of surmise what we've been talking about here, you guys, I really appreciate everybody for watching these videos. It's been 10 so far, hopefully many more to come. Means a tremendous amount to me, to those who are watching, liking, subscribing, sharing. Thank you very much. And yeah, just to tie a bow on it, you guys, it's challenge yourself early and often. Get after it, because that's ultimately what leads to the most fulfilling life. Stay curious, continue to learn, and hold that which makes you happy dear to you. Because if you care about it, it matters. Go Arsenal. This is the Wise Lemon Podcast, episode 10. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time.